Ciao, welcome back to the channel. This video is the first of a two-part series about Glance, a revamp on the widget system in Android that will let us developer work with Jetpack Compose while we build our widget for our application. Adding one more thing that Compose is capable of doing. To get started, we need to define the dependencies. To do so, we will open the version catalog of our project and define a version for our widget with Glance. We will then need to define our dependencies as well using the version that we just declared. As the recording of the video, the latest version release for Glance it's 1.1.0, and the three libraries that we need are Glance Widget, Glance Material, and Glance Material3. With that done, we can sync our project, so we will be able to reference those three dependencies inside our build Gradle file from the module that we'll need to use Glance. If you're not aware of what is a lib version file, I have a video that it will be on the screen now to migrate from the standard dependencies to a libs version catalog top file. Take a look at the video, it's pretty easy to migrate to that. Now that we have synced our project, we can go ahead and define the three dependencies that we will use. I'm for now using the build Gradle file of the app module because this is a simple project just to show you how to actually create a widget for your application. Let's sync this again so we will be able to reference those new things inside our module. The first thing we want to do now that we have our dependencies set up is to create a file inside the XML folder of our structure. What we need to do with this file is basically declare the widget structure and how it is. So this file will be referenced from the Android manifest file of our application. So let's go ahead and name it my app widget info. We can remove what gets populated automatically and insert what's known as app widget provider tag. As you can see here, there's a lot of variables and there are some warning in some of them. This is because if we open the warning, this is telling us that those parameters are only available from API level 31 and higher. The current minimum of this project is 26. So you have two options here. It's either you create a different configuration for this file that targets only API 31 and above, or you just don't define those variables. My suggestion is to actually define those variables in a specific file. So to do so, let me show you how to do. You right click on the XML file, you go new XML resource file, and then here, available qualifiers, you need to scroll down and select version, click this button to add the version, and then platform API level, we need 31. And let's give it the same name, my app widget info. Now here we can actually define all the parameters while we will need to remove the ones with a warning from the previous file. Now we can have them side by side and I'll go through each one of those parameters and explain what they actually do. So min width, min height, and target cell width, target cell height defines the initial dimension of your widget when it will be placed on the home screen of your users. Target cell width and target cell height are not available below level 31, so you should define both of them. 40 is the actual value for usually one cell. Max resize width and max resize height instead define the maximum values for your widget to be resized. So, for example, if you want it to be a rectangle, more large than tall, you want to define values similar to what I have right now on the screen. Update period millis is how long in milliseconds it will take to your widget to check for new data and refresh its values. Description is quite self-explanatory. Be aware that here I have a string literal, which is not allowed. From here, you have to reference a string values in both the files if you want to actually write something. So what we'll do is open the string file. We will go ahead and create a new string here, which we will name widget description, and use that one as a reference from here. Now, preview layout and initial layout, it's the layout that is shown as your widget is inside the widget drawer or when the user is moving it around while placing it on the home screen. The suggestion for the official documentation is you can use a Glance default loading layout. But this layout is actually a spinner, a circular spinner, which I don't suggest you to use. Because if you do so, you will see a loading spinner in the widget drawer, and your user won't understand what's going on here. So my suggestion is to create a new layout. To do so, you just select your layout folder and create a new layout resource file. We actually will just need a frame layout, and we will call my widget placeholder. So we do have a frame layout here which matches its parent, and my suggestion is to just use an image which will match its parent and will have an src of your launcher, which will work easily. So we can toggle the preview here and see that this will be what will be displayed. Now we can use that file instead of the default one, which will be a little bit better in my opinion to the user. Now the next parameter is configure. This lets you define an activity that will allow the user to customize your widget. For now, it's defined as the main activity of this project, but I will remove it because I don't want to be able to customize my widget for now. I will leave it here for now just to show you what happens when the user places the widget on its home screen and this parameter has actually a value. The resize mode is whether the widget can be resized either vertically or horizontally on the home screen. The widget category can be home screen, keyguard, or search box. You can use multiple values with the OR as for the resize mode that you can see on the screen. The next step is to define a widget receiver class and your widget as well. So what we want to do here, I suggest you to create a new package that you will call widget. And inside this widget, you want to create my app widget, which will be the class that we will use to actually create the layout of our widget. This class will need to extend the glance app widget class, and it will give us an implementation of a function named provide glance. Inside of this function, we have a provide content function, which is a composable function. So inside of this body, we are actually inside a composable function, and you will see that we can use a text, for example, that will say hello user, and this is just a simple widget. The next step is to create a new class which we will call my app widget receiver, and this class will need to extend the glance app widget receiver class. And here again we will need to override a parameter which is the glance app widget parameter. We now want to provide our widget that we just created. The suggestion here from the official documentation is to keep your app widget with the default constructor that accepts no parameter, just to use it here. The next step is to define our widget receiver inside our manifest. So inside the application body, we want to create a receiver that will use our my app widget receiver as the name it will need to be exported, and it will need to have an intent filter inside of it with the name of Android app widget action app widget update. And as the metadata, we want to use the app widget provider, providing the XML file that we declare at the beginning of this video. With everything done so far, we can run our app on a device. We should be able to add a widget inside of our home screen in our phone. So now that we launched our app, as soon as it starts, we don't care what's inside our app. We can background the application as soon as we want. And then if we hold and tap, we select widgets, we should be able to see our widget. Let's find the Glance tutorial, which is our app. Perfect. We have a Glance tutorial widget, which is a 1x1 widget, and you can see that the description is placed underneath. So if we hold on it and we move it to our home screen, you see the design, the layout that it is displayed is the default layout that we specify in our app widget info XML file. As soon as we release it, we see that it can be resized, and there's also this small edit icon. This is what I was referring to when I spoke you about the configure option here in the XML files. If I go ahead, for example, and remove both of them from here, remove the widget, relaunch the app, and try to add the widget again, we will see that the small edit icon won't be there because we now define that the widget has no configuration activity. So if we do again widgets, scroll down and find our application and try to add our widget to our home screen, you see that this edit icon is not there anymore. Now we do have our widget, but it's small. It can be resized, but is not styled at all, as you can see. So let's go ahead and add something to our widget in order to make it a little bit better. The suggestion from the documentation is to use what they call a glance theme. Inside this glance theme, as the material theme that you can use inside your application, we can define whatever composable we want. Now, keep in mind that the glance theme is a little bit different compared to the material theme that your application can use. As you can see here on the screen, they both accept a kind of color scheme / color and a content function. But the glance theme doesn't accept a shapes or typography parameter in order for you to customize what's actually displayed as a typography and shapes on the screen. You can of course customize the color provider here and specify all your colors as you wish. The suggestion though is to just use this glance theme and leave it as it is, because it will automatically follow the material hue color selected by your users. So another function that I wanted you to be aware of is the scaffold function. Now, again, I want to show you the difference between the two scaffold function. On the left, you have the material tree scaffold. On the right, you have the components of Glance scaffold. They both accept a modifier. They both accept what is a title bar or top bar. But then on the Glance scaffold, you can only define a background color and horizontal padding. You're not able to define a bottom bar, a snack bar host, floating action button, and many other customization as you can on the scaffold from material tree. This is because the views that are placed on the widget are what was defined as remote views. Now, if we move the text inside our scaffold, this time we should see some difference if we reinstall our app and re-add our widget to our home screen. As you can see now, the widget, it's a little bit different and has a background, and it's using all the colors that it's supposed to use following the material hue design. Now let's make this scaffold a little bit better by adding a title bar. Here, this is a composable. We have access as to a title bar that wants a start icon and a title. The start icon needs to be an image provider which can accept a drawable res ID. So let's go ahead and use the launcher foreground drawable, and as title it wants a string, so we will say welcome. Now here we just need to use user, for example, but let's say we want to add something else. What we could add, for example, could be a column which says welcome user, or actually let's see welcome, how are you today? And then what we can also add is 2 buttons. The button could be good or perhaps bad. We want to import the correct button. For the on click of this button, what we want to do is start an activity. And for now, we will just start the main activity of our app, but keep in mind that you can launch whatever activity you want. Now, if we go ahead and relaunch our application and re-add our widget to the home screen, we can see that the widget itself has been updated and will show the column this way. Let's use a row here as well in order to wrap our 2 buttons and make it a little bit better. Now we have a little bit a better looking widget. And we have a little bit better widget, and as you can see, it's way better than it was at the beginning. Another thing I want to show you is the difference between other components, as I just showed you with the scaffold. Let's start with columns and rows. As you can see here on the screen, both columns on the left, the material tree, on the right, the glance one, accept a modifier. The only difference is the vertical arrangement versus vertical alignment in the glance one. The horizontal alignment is the same, and it's the other way around for rows. So rows from the glance accept an horizontal alignment versus an horizontal arrangement from the material tree ones. One of the biggest difference between 2 components is inside the text component. The text in the glance only accepts a text, a modifier, a style, and the maximum amount of line that it can occupy on the screen. A few things are inside the text style, such as font family, font weight, font style, font size, and text decoration. But everything else, the letter spacing, the line height, the overflow, the soft wrap, the min lines, can't be defined inside the text. Another one is the button. Basically the same applies. You can specify a text on click function, it's a set modifier, you can enable or disable it, and you can style the text and the colors. But you can't define a shape, you can't define the elevation, you can't define the border or the content padding. So it's a little bit more limited. Another one which differs a bit, it's the image composable. The image composable has no overloads inside the glance. It only accepts a provider, which is an image provider that we've seen used in the top bar of our widget. It accepts a content description, a modifier, a content scale, and a color filter. We don't have any other way to define images as we could have here in the material tree foundation. We can have a painter, for example, or we could have an image vector or a bitmap itself. We can't use those inside the image from the Glance library. We can also not specify an alpha and the filter quality of the color filter, as well as the alignment. And that's how you can style a widget inside your application if you need to. With what I show you so far, you are actually only able to display hard-coded data from the class of the widget in your home screen. So this is kind of limited, and I suppose you don't want to do that. In the next video, which will be the second part of this 2-part tutorial, I'll show you how to actually inject data from your application inside the widget. You will be able to know how to use a database, share a preference, from your application inside of your widget in order to display it on the home screen of your users. This will be more likely what you actually want to do, because that's the entire point of a widget, right? Show application data without actually opening or entering the application. So at a glance on the home screen. And that's it for today's though. So until the next time, peace.